Welcome to the American Diversity Report podcasts, co-sponsored by the Systemic Diversity and Inclusion LinkedIn Network. I'm Deborah Levine, your moderator and editor of the American Diversity Report. And with me today is Keith Weedman, who is principal and founder of Level 3 by Design, LLC. His background includes advanced degrees in psychology and industrial management. His nonprofit creation empowers public assistance clients to become financially self-sufficient and boosts volunteers' empowerment skills. Weedman's expertise in socioeconomic diversity is featured in a case study by Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and privilege to be here.
Well, I am so excited about hearing about your work. Kennedy School of Government is a major player in this world. How do you deal with systemic diversity inclusion? What is your affiliation with this issue?
My affiliation with this issue comes from experience. I worked for a number of years within Indiana's social service system. I had the privilege of working with many people who had limited financial means and limited education. And by focusing on empowering them and elevating their skill to empower other people, what I discovered was there's so much more hidden potential within them than what people typically perceive. Further, I learned that people, without meaning to, often unintentionally hold people back because people who have never received public assistance do not tend to look highly upon those that do. Rather, they tend to critically judge those receiving assistance, and their critical judgments does have an effect, and it's not a good one.
And how did you become an advocate for diversity and inclusion? How did this come about?
I was looking for a more meaningful way to help people, and I took an 8-day course titled Mastery in Psychotherapy while I was a full-time county director within Indiana's social service system. I was so excited by my ability to empower people and affect change in their lives after this 8-day training that I signed up to get a master's degree to get more clinical training from this particular psychiatrist that founded the course.
So it was an intensive training and then off to a master's degree.
Yes, and the other interesting thing about this training that I took, I was the only one in the room with a BS in industrial management. Everyone else, there were psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, clinical social workers, and then there was me. And because I did not have all the additional knowledge that everyone else in the room had, it was much easier for me to set aside what I knew because I didn't have to set aside very much to be able to elevate my ability to empower people and affect change in their lives.
And your impulse to do that, it must have come from very deep inside.
I've always had a passion to help people. I believe it's what I've been called by God to do. And because most people did not feel as if the help we were providing within Indiana's social service system was really all that meaningful, I was looking for a more meaningful way to help people. Through taking this course and then getting my graduate degree, I discovered I really didn't need to leave Indiana's social service system. Within our system was the potential to transform it and create one that really helped people get what they really wanted, which was to become financially self-sufficient.
And what was the role of diversity and inclusion in this process?
Again, we're looking at socioeconomic diversity, although it goes deeper than that. Most people that receive help that get stuck in the system do not tend to have very much education, typically a high school degree at best, and quite often dropping out of school before high school graduation. And then often, in addition to lacking education, you will also find people from various African American population and the Spanish language population. There tend to be quite a few folks in those groups that lack education and get stuck in the system. Not stuck because it's their dream to one day be on assistance, but stuck because they've lost their spark, the belief that they could truly become successful like you and I.
And how does the corporate world benefit from this diversity? If you're successful and you get these people out of their rut and up and running, what is their role in helping the corporations succeed?
The best way I can share, help you understand this is by telling you a story.
Please.
One of the persons that I worked with that was struggling financially, she worked part-time in a box store and she did not have reliable transportation. Within 3 months of working with me, she got a full-time job working through a temporary agency at a large manufacturing company in our community. Within 3 months of that, she was put onto a quality team. And typically, this large manufacturing company never put a temp on a quality team, only their employees. Then at 12 months, she was told that of all the people that they wanted to hire, she was number one on their list because they loved the spark that she brought to her work. Then at the end of 30 days, once she was hired, her team leader appointed her to be acting team leader. Then the rest of the team revolted and said, no, this is not how we do it at this company. The way we do it is it's up to us to vote who the acting team leader is. They had a vote, 3 people ran, and she won 100% of the votes. She brought a spark with her to work. She empowered people around her, and people loved that spark that she brought. Imagine within any company, people of all walks of life, of all levels of employment, performing at a higher level, being empowered to realize their potential and being encouraged to do so by having leaders have faith in them and their potential. And then by seeing that faith, it's contagious and their employees will catch it like a cold. Except it's the kind of thing that every company would want their employees to catch. And to me, that's really systemic diversity and inclusion, getting leadership to catch the spark and realize that within their company is all kinds of potential that can be untapped. All it takes is for leaders to elevate their skill. And I believe that's what those that I know through this systemic diversity and inclusion community and your community, that's what we're all about, helping people to discover the untapped potential that lives hidden within their workforce.
And now you are an entrepreneur yourself. You have a business.
I am.
And you do empowerment.
My niche is helping people elevate their skill to empower people and affect change in one brief conversation. Most people do not even know that it's possible to affect change in one conversation. And it begins by knowing it's possible and then learning multiple ways to do it.
So it is possible in one conversation, huh?
It is possible. And it comes with a different way of understanding how change works. Most people look at change as taking a long time. Most people consider change to be something that people resist. And when you're talking about behavioral change, these things are true. And yet when you talk about perceiving differently, when you look at a specific person or situation and perceive that person or situation differently, then you immediately change the way in which you treat them because you see the potential that they have that you didn't used to see before.
Fascinating. So it's all up here that we can make the change and create incredible differences, huh?
Yeah, in essence, we have each within us the ability to empower people. And most leaders and most organizations have done this, have empowered people. They may be some of their own family, their children, and clearly some of the people that work for them. And yet each leader tends to get stuck with some people that they feel as if they can't empower. And they tend to look at those people and see there's something wrong with those people, when in fact, there's a potential that they could elevate their skill to a higher level and reach more people.
So if we assumed when we look at someone or a group and wonder who in this group has the potential to rise up the ladder,
Mm-hmm.
that in essence, just about everyone in the room does, depending on how you look at it and how you approach them. Is that correct?
Think of it in terms of self-fulfilling prophecies.
Ah,
They've been proven to exist, and yet most people have no idea how they create them and sustain them, when in fact we create and sustain them all the time. You show me someone that has talent, and I'll show you somebody who is in a self-fulfilling prophecy with a positive effect. You show me someone who looks like they've got no talent, and I'll show you someone who's in the wrong track, a self-fulfilling prophecy with a negative effect, because the people that work for them do not see the talent that exists within them.
I see. Wow. I think you're changing my perspective as we speak.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And I have some people in mind who need to hear from you. Yes, I do.
Excellent. I would love to have a conversation with them.
I suspect there are many more than the ones that I know personally. This is wonderful information about looking at people and instead of assuming the worst, assuming the best possible outcome and then making or helping them live up to it.
Yes. Yes.
Ah.
You described it very well.
I see it's sinking in.
Yes. My compliments to you.
Thank you so
You just
much.
caught the spark.
I think I have. Oh, wonderful. I can hardly wait. I'm excited. So is there anything else that you would like to add to this discussion to help people understand a little bit more about systemic diversity and inclusion and your role in it?
I would invite anyone interested to submit a comment or a question, and I would be pleased to respond to any comments or questions that are posted on the podcast site or on a YouTube site.
Excellent, excellent.
And I would also welcome people to contact me directly. My email is keith@level3bydesign, and that's the number 3, that's KEITH @level3bydesign.com. And my cell number is 812-343-2697. And I'll always respond. My strive is to respond within 24 hours. And I sometimes get a little backlogged, and I'll respond always as quickly as I can.
Thank you. Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask, level 3, 3 levels, yes? Would you like
Level 3 by design stands for looking at change as being 3 different levels of change. Level 1 change is behavioral change. Most people, when they speak of change, they're really speaking about behavioral change, the forming of a habit, the breaking of a habit. And yes, it is true that habits are hard to form and hard to break. And then level 2 change is change that results from perceiving differently. When you look at someone and perceive them as having hidden, untapped potential that can be easily unleashed, you can then have a profound impact upon them that someone else could not have, that does not perceive them in the same way. And then level 3 change is really owning perceiving as a creative act. You and I each have the ability to perceive any person or situation at any moment in more than one way, and most importantly, in a way that opens new, compelling possibilities for the future.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. I so appreciate your sharing your work and your expertise with us today.
Well, thank you so much for the privilege of doing so. I applaud you and for the work that you're doing through American Diversity.
Well, it's a pleasure always, and I know that our audience will enjoy hearing your podcast and seeing what is possible if you just let it be. And to my audience, thank you for tuning in. We'll be seeing you again soon, I'm sure. Keith, again, thank you. And yes.
And Deborah, thank you so much for who you are and what you do, and for
Oh,
your commitment to diversity and inclusion.
thank you, sir. It is indeed a passion.
Yes, thank you.